Let's welcome out Calvin, a fine young man who's going to continue that. And Calvin, would you like me to read the verses first? Or?
Is this thing? Yeah, it's on. Yes, please.
Okay, let me stand up there. So I believe you're preaching from verses 5 to 11.
5 to 10.
5 to 10, all right,
Yes.
Cool. Because our gospel came to you not simply with words, but also with power, with the Holy Spirit and deep conviction, for you know how we lived among you for your sake. And so you became imitators of us and of the Lord, for you welcomed the message in the midst of severe suffering with the joy given by the Holy Spirit. And so you became a model to all the believers in Macedonia and Achaia. And the Lord's message rang out for you not only in Macedonia and Achaia, but your faith in God has become known everywhere. Therefore, we do not need to say anything about it, for they themselves report what kind of reception you gave us. They tell us how you turned to God from idols to serve the living and true God, and to wait for his Son from heaven, whom he raised from the dead, Jesus, who rescues us from the coming wrath.
Thank you very much. Hey guys, my name is Calvin. I've been coming to this church since I was 10 years old, and I grew up in youth, and now I have the pleasure of actually being one of the youth leaders, which is absolutely something that I love so much. So, the title of my talk is The Imitators That Became Examples. And honestly, well, when I found out about this, it was something that I was super passionate to talk about, because it just highlighted to me the importance of who we spend our time with, who we look up to, and also just how our actions can affect others as well. Today, I'll have 3 points. The first one is 3 questions that I'll ask you guys in a second. Who in your life do you look up to, and who do you imitate? Secondly is who has God put in your life to be an example to? And then finally is, why is it so important? Why did Paul think it's so important to have to be an example and also to have an examples yourself? In this day and age, we have so many things that influence us, especially if we all have technology, we all have our phones. There's Facebook, there's YouTube, there's all these things where we can draw inspiration from. So in a second, I would like you to have a think of who comes to mind when I think about someone who inspires you and someone who you look up to. Now, for me, I have a wonderful family. I have absolutely a wonderful family. And I've also had the great opportunity to, obviously, Matt being my youth leader as well, and Dan as well. They've both been very influential when it comes to my faith itself, especially Matt. Matt's always thrown me into some situations of faith. But the reason I chose them is because I saw the Holy Spirit in them. I saw the fruits of the Holy Spirit in them. And hopefully when you think about someone who influenced you, hopefully it's someone who you consider the Holy Spirit in them as well. For my families, my siblings, Linda, Rose, and George, they're very good at self-control when it comes to money. Like, if you ask them, when it comes to saving, I'm not the best, something that I'm working on, but that is something that genuinely I look up to them to try and actually see how I can learn more to be like them. And my dad, now Dad, I call him Mufasa as a joke. Dad is someone who's very patient with us. And I can assure you that within the past week or so, he's told one of us either something that he's always told us to do, but we haven't done it the right way, but he still has the patience to be calm and just not shout at us at all. Unless he kind of like comes to us and talks to us in English, then that's when we know we're in trouble. And then finally, my mom. My mom is someone who, she has the most pure heart of someone who has the most pure heart. She's very generous. There's so many times when we were still back in Kenya where I would come back home from school and I would just find some random woman or man sitting down. But the one that really stands out was I came home, there was a woman sitting down, and at night we usually used to pray. we would give people the opportunity to give testimonies. This woman stood up and said, well, I was in town. I came here to see my son, but my son, I don't know, I couldn't reach my son. And then this woman came and found me, asked me if I was lost, and she just invited me to her house. Something told me to go to her house, and here I am. And I remember the next day, my mom asked her, like, do you want to go back do you want to find your son, or do you want to go back? She said, I want to go back home. And my mom gave her money to go back home, and also just an additional for snacks around the way. And my mom is the only person I know who has, I think, 6 or 7 children named after her. Now, the parents would have picked any other names whatsoever, but they looked at the qualities of my mom, Virginia. It's not that they didn't like the name Virginia, or she's lovely. It wasn't that. It's the fact that the fruits of the Holy Spirit in her were shining through, and that is why, which is such an honor. And by saying that, just want to say that the name Calvin is a lovely name as well. If any of you are expecting, just know Calvin is here. All right. So, secondly, my second point. Who was God put in your life to be an example? Great. So you have all these great people who has influenced you. What do you do with that? Now, for me personally, if my family knows this, and I've spoke to Matt, I've never done about this a lot. It's for some weird reason, for a while, and I'm getting better now, self-doubt is something that has really affected me. So when reading this verse, I thought, you know what, yeah, it's great, I can be an imitator, but not really an example. But then I remembered when I was in the Easter trip, and Eunice came and sat next to me. They have 3 lovely kids, but I usually, Elijah and Autumn are usually the ones that I am a youth leader for. And she came up to me and she told me that, oh, by the way, I just want to thank you for how well you treat them, and they really look up to you. Now, in my head, I said, oh, thank you very much, yada, yada. But in my head, I was like, why me? Like, why? I started doubting myself. But then something reminded me. And it just told me, like, listen, if God is with you, and you have the Holy Spirit with you, you are going to shine regardless. Like, it doesn't matter how little of influence you have. Like, that doesn't matter. And for me, it just kind of reaffirmed the fact that being a youth leader is something that's actually, it's important to me. It's very important to me. And it's something that it's whenever I'm in a youth leader, or whenever I'm with them now, it makes me act a little bit more, not different as such, but I have that thought in the back of my mind, like Calvin, you are an example now, so you have to act a certain way. So ask yourselves, who are you an example for? If let's say you go to a new place of work or new environment, and 1 week later someone comes and tell the people that you're with, like, oh, they're Christian. Are they going to be surprised and shocked, like, oh, that's unusual? Well, they were just doing this and this with me. Or are they going to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's why they're so kind. That's why they're so generous. And finally, why is it important? Why did Paul think it's so important to have influence, to have people who you imitate, godly people you imitate, or people who let me rephrase that. Why did Paul think it was so important for you to have examples and to be an example? And just like the title is to be prepared. When Jesus comes, when Jesus comes down to earth and when he calls me home, I want Jesus to ask me, when Jesus asked me, like, Calvin, what did you do to prepare? I want to say that I prepared by becoming an example myself. I wanted to be a good influence because that changed my heart. And also the people that I follow, people who I look up to, they themselves also help me become the best I can be when it comes to getting closer to Christ. All right? Thank you very much.
Hey, my name's Dan Baptist and I'm lead pastor here at Jubilee Community Church. We really hope that something from this morning's word has blessed you and reached you. And if you'd like to talk about anything you've heard, or just be able to talk about maybe faith or get some prayer, then please get in contact. You can email us, give us a call at the centre, and one of the team's going to get back to you. We'd love to do this, especially if you're just thinking about what it is to become a Christian. You want to sit down and really talk that through with anyone. We also run regularly on a Sunday some joining the church courses. And if you want to know more about Jubilee Community Church and what it is to belong here, then you can just find out online when the next one of those is going on, and you can attend, have a meal, sit down, talk about it. We also have some amazing midweek group life where it's a great opportunity to dig further into your faith. Again, you can find out that on our website too. Anyway, just wanted to say hi and bless you, and we'll catch up soon.